Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special off-season edition of the League Manager's Note. Today I'm joined by the reigning defending champion, four-time champion.
Three times straight.
Okay, all right. Just need to make sure we get the credentials out of the way early in the season.
Yeah.
Mr. Cody is here as well, and Matt Hobart. He's here as well. We're out here in Colorado, fellas. This has been a hell of a week. This is nuts out here. Absolutely nuts. Sorry for those of you that couldn't make it. Hopefully you can next time. Missing a lot of things.
A lot of things.
A lot of things. So we've been discussing some things that we wanted to bring up and get onto the table. I'd like to take care of. Especially before the lottery draft. I would really like to have all of these issues taken care of. Remember that the lottery draft will happen the week following the NBA Finals. Normally we do that on a Sunday as we would any league manager's note, so it'll likely be the first Sunday following the finals. If the finals take place on a Sunday for whatever reason, it'll be the following Sunday, not that night.
Yep.
First thing we wanted to talk about was probably the biggest issue facing the league right now is the platform. There's been some suggestion of switching to fan tracks. There's been some suggestion of staying. We have our awards there. I don't mind continuing with the list if that's what the people want, but I do want to have a legitimate vote on this. It'll be a standard vote. The commissioner doesn't vote. Six for ESPN or 6 for fan tracks. From my understanding, and Simmons can correct me if I'm wrong, he has agreed to pay the subscription fee for this season. I do want to say that I don't want that to be a permanent thing. That's nice of Simmons to do. But if we do go to fan tracks, I want to note that next season we're all going to be splitting the fee for fan tracks. Also, as a side note to that, if we want to talk about a buy-in this year for a small cash prize, now's the time to do so. If people want to do that, I vote we nominate a league treasury or a league treasurer. That could be a nice little role where we get some other people involved, where we start keeping a kitty, and when we go on trips and stuff like that, could buy some things for everyone. But again, these are just issues that I want to take care of as soon as possible as it relates to the platform. As far as my views, the commissioner, I will say that I'm fine with either one. I see the merits to both sides. I'm willing to keep the list. If people want to stay with ESPN, if people want to move to fan tracks, I'll do whatever's necessary at that time. Other than that, let's at least have a vote on it.
So, the direction is we're going to have a vote, then.
Yeah, we're going to have a vote, and that's what I mean. Send in your votes. Like I said, if we get 6 ESPN, we stay with ESPN, 6 for fan tracks, we move on, and then I will be in contact with Simmons about getting it paid for and set up, because I'm going to start moving on that immediately if we're switching platforms.
Nice.
All right, second one.
Keepers, keeper lock / keeper options.
Okay, so it's come to my attention over the last few days. There's multiple interpretations of the rule that we have in place for keepers. Now, the problem that we're facing is there are a couple players that are in different situations as to keepers in general. For example, Eric, Cody, and Adam all were a part of that keeper draft where they originally picked KD, and Greek Freak was a part of that. And so this year, if they elect to keep him, this would technically be their third keeper. Now, why that's different from everyone else is, let's say we have Simmons, who got AD the season prior. He's had all that season, and then he'll have the entire way through this season as well. So that's over 3 years. So what I really want to do is I want to have a discussion and I want to have a vote. We're going to make this as fairly as possible for everyone. But what we need to do is narrow down what the interpretation of the rule is. If the rule is that you get to keep him 3 times through the following season, okay, that means he has to be traded by the end of the season, after trade deadline. So we're all keeping that track, okay? That's the first scenario. Second scenario is we can say if you keep a player 3 times, then you have to trade them by the trade deadline the following year. Because if you, let's say, gain them in that first season and you have, just an example, you have James Harden for that whole season, then you elect him first as your keeper, that's an additional full season with James Harden. So if Joel, let's say, were to elect to keep him and could trade him through the end of the season, that's really 4 full years of James Harden. As long as we're okay with that, we can keep it till the end of the season. However, our no trade deadline until the end of the season, we can't really put a trade deadline in and have like 3 months where you can trade keepers, because they would have to be traded before the end of the season, meaning before the season is over.
Yeah, which means
by the end of finals is like by season end. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if we want to move it up to the trade deadline, we just need to be clear. If we do make a rule that makes it unfair for other players, we can do trades in principle this year. So for example, Cody, we discussed this on the drive to Colorado. So his situation is he elected KD as his keeper day 1. He had to elect it as a keeper day 1. So him electing KD as a keeper this year, he would have to hold KD until the end of the season to have him for 3 full years. So under the interpretations of the rules, it would be by trade deadline or season end. But we need to figure out which way is fair. If we decide that you have to trade these players by the trade deadline, those players that elected keepers on the first day, meaning Cody, Eric, and Adam, will all be able to trade in principle following the trade deadline this season, because that's the only fair way to compensate them and get their full 3 years. And then moving forward, all trades and all players must be accomplished before the trade deadline that season, or keepers will be lost to the draft.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense to everyone? If there are questions, we can have a video conference. I don't care, but there are 2 different situations. I'm happy to try and do my best to type them all out to everyone. I know that was a little bit of a ramble. But like I said, I just want everybody to be clear on the situations before we do the draft lottery. That way we can address any problems that there might be. As a side note, I mean, once we figure out that problem, moving forward, we won't have it again. So there's that.
Yeah.
What's the last thing over there?
Permanent commissioner.
Oh, well, I guess that there's been talking of a permanent commissioner thing. So Cody, Joel, and Matt are putting the motion together to get a vote together to make me permanent commissioner. 8 votes are going to be required as a yes for me to pass this, only because I want everybody to be on board with this as much as possible.
So the reason against that Brandon has brought up before is he likes that it's somewhat of an honor. The reason for making him all-time commissioner is he's done all this work. He's done a fantastic job. This league would not happen without him. I can't imagine anyone being a better commissioner.
People's champ.
I'm not gonna.
I'm plugging people's champ.
You can be the people's commissioner, man.
If that's something that we all want and agree to, I'm fine with that. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't want to do it this season. I'm honored that you guys feel that way, so I'm actually pretty excited. It's a nice honor.
I agree.
Yeah. That's,
Okay,
so we'll take a vote on that as well.
We'll take a vote on that as well. Let's see.
The last thing was we had brought up. This is just kind of we're throwing it out there. We might throw in another category. It's been discussed.
Yeah, it's been discussed. I know some people feel very strongly about not adding it in. I know it's been thrown out there, and there were a couple that said just no right away. What we need to know, as far as if we even want to consider another category, is we need to get the platform figured out, because I'm sure FanTrax, if it's a subscription base, is number one going to offer more category situations as opposed to actually doing ESPN. For me, I like the idea of a new category, but other than that, I won't go too much into it. I just I think that a lot of people are concerned with the ties and the triple-double. I mean, I get a lot of complaints about that. So from the league's point of view, it being so heavily tied down to triple-doubles and ties that way, adding one category makes sense for me, because that'll throw that category being the tiebreaker more often than the triple-double.
It eliminates some of the pressure on head-to-head situations.
Exactly. We won't have as many ties. Now, keep in mind, if we do add a category, that is going to limit the power of the home court advantage, which then that limits all the powers of actual seeding in the playoffs. If it doesn't really matter to you, you can be a little bit more conservative or whatever you'd like to do in the final 8. So we just all need to keep that in mind, really, when we're considering the extra category.
Sure. I think the important part is, if we do it, it would have to be a category that we all felt good about.
Right, that's what I mean. It would have to be.
Go.
It would not only have to be everybody on board with a new category, but we would need 6 people to agree on one category, and commissioner can't vote. So keep that in mind as we move forward as well. I'm glad we brought that up.
Yeah.
Even for future, that'll be the situation at the end of every season, if anybody wants to add or take away categories.
Yeah. But do some thinking. Things like free throw attempts have been discussed, fouls, things like of those natures. But
right,
you know,
and there's always the advanced settings too. If we want to just do one crazy ridiculous advanced setting, like
real plus
turnover to steal, real plus minus. That'd be just That'd be really interesting, actually. That's a defensive category. Wow. Plus minus could be interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, please let us know your thoughts. Like I said, I will do my best to explain every situation. If you have a question or anything like that, please call me. I will discuss it directly with you, or we can text about it. I've been informed by everybody that they'll be returning this year.
Is this the first year?
This will be the first year that everybody is returning. Pretty excited. Great. And at the very end of the video, it fell over. Thanks, Joel, for hitting that down just like the champ.
Yeah.
Anything from you, Matt Hobart, off-season?
Can't wait to start.
Yeah.
All right. Cody?
I'm coming.
Cody wants it this year.
Don't be afraid to slide in the DMs. We can always talk.
I'm coming for my 4th in a row. That'll be good.
That's absurd.
4 straight years. It'll be a presidential term.
Oh, man.
Good Lord. All right. Well, get at us with your opinions, and we'll talk to you all later. See ya.
See ya.